Hello, and welcome to Thrive, a podcast that gives you strategies and inspiration to help you live your best life.
Learn from us, two cancer survivors, as we show you how we don't just survive, but thrive.
Hi, this is Garth Callaghan, the Napkin Notes Dad. I've been writing notes and putting them into my daughter's lunch ever since she was in kindergarten. I'm also a 5-time cancer survivor. I've been diagnosed with cancer 5 times over the past 7 years.
I'm Dara Kurtz, author of Crush Cancer, creator of CrazyPerfectLife.com. I'm a wife, mom, and a cancer thriver. Welcome to our show. We're so glad that you're back. Today we're going to talk about gratitude. Gratitude is such an important word in my life and something that I never really thought about until I went down the cancer path. Before I had cancer, which I always like to say BC, before cancer, I kind of went through my day just...
So Dara, do you really like to say BC?
Yeah.
I hate BC.
You do?
I want to be BC, right?
Well, I mean, my life really is broken down into BC before cancer and AC after cancer.
Yeah, me too. I get it.
I get what you're saying. But it was kind of like, remember on our very first show when you said you came into the house and Lisa kind of paused when you were telling her. And then in that moment when you said, I have cancer, that was kind of like that moment that your world went from before cancer to after cancer.
Yep. And you know, the challenge is you can never go back.
You can never go back. I mean, it's kind of like a club that nobody wants to be in, but once you cross over, you're there. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do really think of my life in those two categories. Do you not do that?
You know, for me, the BCAC really, so the transition was more BCDC, like during cancer.
Okay, I get that.
And so I guess for me, that path, that phase has just been so long. And so it's really hard for me to think about what was life like before that, because I remember me. I was a very different me. And to be honest, the me that exists today is better.
A version that you like better.
Absolutely. And part of it is gratitude. I have learned to be grateful for everything, right? Because you don't realize you don't realize how fragile life is until it's kind of shoved in your face.
Yeah, I never thought about gratitude. Of course, I was appreciative and I said thank you and I felt like I counted my blessings. But then after going through everything, I recognize now that I did not live a life of gratitude before. I just sort of assumed that life was great and it would stay that way. I never really thought about opening my eyes and sort of noticing all of the good in my life and just sort of counting my blessings every single day.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And for me, one of the things that I do is I start really small with gratitude, right? So, you know, I don't have to be grateful about everything all the time. I don't have to be so I can't even think of the word that I want to use, but I don't necessarily have to think about the biggest things that are going on. It can start really small and build from there. And, you know, one of the things I do when I go to Costco, I love Costco. I just, the people there are real. And I've been a member at my Costco since before they were even Costco. And guess what? Almost all of the employees there have worked there those 21 years I've lived in Glen Allen. And so recently I started saying, thank you for being here. So as I'm checking out and the person hands me back my Costco card and the receipt and says, thank you, I look them in the eye and I say, thank you for being here. And then I do the same thing on the way out when the person checks my receipt, because I am genuinely thankful that they're there. Costco makes my life easier. You know, they're really friendly people. And gosh, you know, even the people in the pharmacy, they know who I am. They know why I'm there. And they're just...
I think everyone knows who you are wherever you go. Let's just own it.
I am so not that person you think I am, but thank you for the sentiment.
Okay, just to say, the first time we ever went to the Starbucks, okay, sideline, the first time we ever went to meet at Starbucks, and we'll save this for another episode, but I said, I'm here early. Let me just get your drink. And I think you were like, oh, just tell them it's for me. They know what I want. And I was like, I'm getting a drink for a guy named Garth. And they're like, oh, yeah, we know what he wants.
Oh, that's
All
really
right, go
embarrassing.
on. Go on.
Okay. Well, you know what? Thank you for that coffee, by the way. Thank you for that drink. I really do try to start out small and think about the little things in life that I can be grateful for. Little things like, oh, the light didn't turn red before I got to the intersection. And I know that's a really silly thing to be thankful for, but practicing that, practicing gratitude actually leads to you being grateful. And I'm going to actually I'm going to do something a little off the cuff. I was thinking about this earlier today. Thank you, Dara. I don't know. I don't know if you really comprehend the lifeline, the lifeline that you play in my life. And there are times that you absolutely like pull me back to reality, the good reality. You pull me into really crazy projects like podcasting. You recognize the stress that I might be going through and make sure that it's not hidden and that it's, up front and center and that I have to address it. And I don't know that I would be as good of a cancer patient without you in my life.
Oh my goodness. That was so unexpected and appreciated. And thank you. And I mean, you coming to my life was the biggest blessing ever. So I am so grateful for you. And like I said, and we're going to do this another episode, like how we met and how we got here. And I don't want to ruin that episode, but I mean, you are just a bright, shining light in my life. And I just am so blessed to have your friendship. And you're stuck with me. It was kind of like I leached on and I just wasn't going away, right?
You know what?
But we'll talk about that later.
From a certain point of view, you could absolutely say that. But it was actually one of the best things that's happened to me. I don't have in my life, I don't have anybody that I can really talk to that knows me and knows my situation, but also has that perspective of having to go through cancer. I mean, there are some folks that I've become acquainted with, and some folks that I'm even good friends with here in Richmond that have been in similar situations. But their lives are kind of busy. My life is kind of busy. We also haven't purposefully made time for each other. And you and I have, right? So you and I, even if we don't do it every week, we have that weekly scheduled call and it's on the calendar. And we're texting each other and messaging each other and sending each other ideas. So we've kind of purposefully made our own friendship and relationship something that we've both said this is a priority. And I know I'm getting really sappy here, but I'm grateful for that as well.
I'm so appreciative. I'm just kind of like so grateful to have you in my life and your family in my life and your friendship. And, we're just truly blessed. So thank you for that. See, that's what Garth does. Is he just is this perfect, wonderful person. And of course you would do all this today because that's just so you.
So, I really appreciate the fact that you are saying on, quote unquote, our live podcast that's just me and I'm such this perfect person.
It is just you.
I am so flawed.
Oh my gosh. Anywhere we go, if we go speak somewhere together or we're even just at Starbucks somewhere together. I mean, people just love Garth wherever you go because I think you truly walk through life with that grateful attitude and it shows. So like if you're at Costco or if you're at Starbucks or wherever, you are in that present moment, being grateful for whatever's going on around you, and it's authentic. And I think people feel that. So when you say, thank you for being here to whoever, they really feel that. And I think that's what makes people love you so much is that you're just a real person.
When I was, I remember when I kind of flipped that switch on from a cancer perspective. Oh, and you know what? We were supposed to say this in the beginning of the episode. We'll say it kind of towards the middle. We know that a lot of the folks listening are not necessarily cancer patients. They're not necessarily cancer caregivers. But Dara and I, we are cancer patients. Our families are caregivers, and so even though we talk through a cancer lens, these topics are really applied to anybody and any situation, right? Just because we have this viewpoint of cancer, that's our viewpoint, and your viewpoint could be some other stress that you have in your life or some other hurdle or barrier, and that's okay.
Because everyone goes through shit. That's just the reality of life. I mean, there are going to be ups and downs. We're all just trying to navigate our lives the best we can. And so if we can bring you a little bit of maybe perspective to maybe get you to think of things in a different way, like for example, today we're talking about gratitude, and hopefully after this podcast, maybe you'll travel through your life and think about ways that you can notice all of the good in your life. Then we feel like that's kind of a win-win.
Right, absolutely. And so, I say this a lot. I don't know, Dar, if you've ever experienced this, but every once in a while, I'll be talking with a friend or an acquaintance, and they'll start to kind of like complain about something that's bad in their life, and then they look at me and they kind of pale, and they think, "Oh crap, here I am complaining about my tennis elbow, and Garth has cancer."
Yeah, one thing that I've sort of found is, and well, I really feel like you are who you associate with. And my patience level to be around people that complain a lot has sort of gone down over the past few years. Meaning,
It's tough, and one of the ways that I kind of help them, I guess, like the guy who's complaining about tennis elbow or whatever, I'm like, hey, you know what? Your shit is different than my shit, but it's both shit, right?
true,
So
true.
let's, please don't compare the problems that you have in your life to the problems that I have in my life. We both have problems,
It's not a
right?
contest.
It's
We don't.
it's absolutely not a contest. Let's figure out how to be grateful together about whatever we've got going on.
But
Well,
I don't want to be around people that see that complain all the time. I just don't, because
well,
I feel like you can feel negative energy from people. It can kind of impact your day. And so one thing that I've learned to do is kind of guard myself and be really careful who I'm around, because I do just want to surround myself with people that are positive and make me feel good and bring me up. And we all have those people in our lives that can be negative.
yeah,
And so
and I think one of the ways to the way that I try to overcome my negativity is through gratitude, right?
truly, that is very
And so that switch for me flipped early on in my diagnosis. So I'd been diagnosed in early November of 2011, and right a few days before Christmas, I was having surgery, and it was a pretty big deal. I mean, it ended up being like a 5.5 hour surgery, um, but the whole time that I was in the hospital, I made sure that everybody that encountered me, I asked their name, and if I wasn't fully doped up on morphine, I made sure to repeat their name so that I kind of had it stuck in my brain. And then I said, thank you for helping me. Because, those 3 days were really, really rough. And I recognized early on that those nurses, they had a floor full of patients. Patients with a T, not patients with a C, although they were also very patient. And you know what? I bet that those patients like me who had a good attitude and were grateful, we maybe we got better care because we were easier to be around.
I'm sure that's true, 100%. But I wish I could say the same. I wish I could say like I found gratitude early on in my journey, but I didn't. In fact, I was probably the opposite of someone living with gratitude when I was going through all of my treatment, especially the chemo part, because I didn't feel good. I felt sorry for myself. I felt sorry for my kids. There were so many days that I would just be in bed watching Netflix, and I would just literally click the clicker. And every time I hear the music to Mad Men, even now, if I hear that music, it puts me right back in that space of feeling really nauseous and being in bed and eating a popsicle because that's really all I could eat. And every time I watched a new episode, I would force myself to have like 5 sips of a drink or get a popsicle. And I didn't feel gratitude. And so it really wasn't until I got through all of my treatments and then I basically realized I had a choice. I could stay in this negative space or I could do something about it. And that's really when I found gratitude.
You know,
And
I
that you
really,
found it early.
I really like what you just said there. And I've actually written this on a napkin note more than once. And it's always in November because Thanksgiving, the holiday, is, you know what, there should be like a different name for it. Like Thanksgiving is what we call it, but really what it is holy God, please get me through this day with my crazy family and not have dry turkey and right. I mean, it's just this whole subtext that's kind of going along with what the holiday, what the holiday is supposed to be and what the
We
holiday actually is.
Yeah, so true.
And so one of the things that I wrote down a while ago was, Thanksgiving is a choice. And I meant it from not just Thanksgiving as an attitude, but Thanksgiving the day, right? So if you really look at that giving thanks is a choice, then it can really reframe your mind.
Absolutely. But everything sort of is a choice. But on what you're saying, kind of like count your blessings, not your problems.
I
Count
love
your
that.
blessings, not your problems. Go
I
through
love it.
life every single day and count your blessings. You know, I used to work in a hospital. I was a banker, but I worked in a bank inside of a hospital. I did that for a really long time.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I
did.
knew that you were a banker, but I
I
didn't
kind of
know.
liked, yeah, I felt like I was sort of like, I don't know, on Grey's Anatomy or ER, but I didn't have to see any of the like yuckiness. So it's kind of like I was going to the hospital. But, you know, my point is that I went into a hospital all the time, but I never really thought about what was going on there. I never, ever took the time to even think to myself, this building is here because there are a lot of sick people inside of this building. And so now every time I drive past a hospital, every time I take a moment to kind of send a prayer up to the people that are inside of the walls of of the hospital. Because here's the thing, there's nothing separating us from being outside of the hospital except for good old fashioned luck. And I never even thought about that. All of the years that I went to the hospital and I rode the elevator up and I sat in my office and saw patients everywhere or met people that were dealing with really hard stuff, I never even took the time to think, gosh, I'm so lucky to not be a patient or I'm so lucky to not be going through that until I went through my journey. And I think that's just kind of the gratitude part of it.
I'm hearing you, and I think to myself all of the times that I kind of walk around and I'm going through the motions, right? Yeah. Well, I mean, not necessarily so much today, but as you're, part of being grateful is being present, right? So
Correct.
it's not just, so remember back in the day where you'd go to Blockbuster and you needed a video and the video you wanted wasn't there, and suddenly the Blockbuster employee was kind of there like recommending things and talking and interacting, and even though you might not have a relationship, right, you were both present in that particular moment. Today, it's go to Redbox, you don't talk to anybody, or you're watching Netflix, not talking to anybody. And not that those aren't different or better or worse, but having that conversation, rather than just getting into the elevator and pressing the button and kind of getting into your office and not really realizing what's going on around you, that's I really think that living in the moment with some gratitude is a way to bring that about. And we've actually talked so much that I think we are even past our time
All
for.
right, so our thriving tip, our
Yep.
thriving tip. Okay, this is very exciting. The thriving tip. So, for those of you who are just listening to us, a thriving tip is a tip that you're going to get every time you listen to our podcast, a little bit of inspiration or an idea or just kind of a nugget that you can carry with you. And so, the thriving tip today is we challenge you to start a gratitude practice in your life. And we do that by asking you today and going forward to take the time to maybe write down 3 things that you're thankful for in your life. And it could be anything. I'm thankful for having food to eat, or I'm thankful for the people in my life. It could be anything. It doesn't matter what it is. There's no judgment here. But take the time to think of 3 things that you are thankful for in your life. And what this will do, if you commit to doing this over the next maybe 3 weeks, is that it will get you to kind of travel through your day looking at the blessings. And it will really shift your mind. And it will shift you to noticing the blessings and living more of a life of gratitude.
I love that. And think about this: at the end of 3 weeks, if you write down 3 things a day, you're going to have over 60 things that you have written down that you're thankful for. And that's a pretty good list. I mean, if you were to sit down and try to write out 60 things that you're thankful for right now, that might be a challenge because you're looking at a blank piece of paper and, the numbers 1 through 60 and you think, "Oh, I'll never get through this." But if you break it up into little chunks like that, 3 things a day, with what's going on, I'm looking around my desk and I'm thinking, what am I thankful for that's just in front of me on my desk? I've got a little Lego pack. I'm really thankful for that. It's whimsical. It makes me happy to have it. I have this great peppermint hand sanitizer that Dara introduced me to, and I'm really thankful for that because it actually helps me not just keep my hands clean organically, but it smells so good. And when I'm nauseated, I spray it on my hands and then I just hold my hands up to my face and I can smell that wonderful smell and it helps alleviate the nausea. And I'm also thankful that I have this really nice R2D2 coffee mug that I keep all my pens in. And so there's my 3, right? I mean, it just, and by the way, I did not know that this was going to be the thriving tip for the day. So I'm just going off the cuff, but there are my 3 things right now. And my day's done in terms of that. And it's warming my heart. It's making my soul happy. I have a smile on my face now that maybe wasn't there 30 seconds ago. Done.
And I bet you're going to travel through the rest of your day and you're going to start to notice things that you're thankful for. So at the end of the 3 weeks, I would guess, and we want to hear about this, by the way. Email us, tell us how this is going. We actually we love to hear from you. But I'm willing to bet that at the end of 3 weeks, you are traveling through your day, you're noticing things that maybe you wouldn't have noticed before. And when you sit down and maybe write 3 things, I'm guessing you can come up with a list of 5 to 10 things really fast.
You know
because
what?
I just start thinking that way.
I love this. In fact, if you're listening right now, I challenge you to come up with your 3 things and email one of us, and we'll talk about it in one of our future podcasts. We won't use your name or anything like that identifies you personally, but if you have 3 things that you're grateful for that you want to have us talk about, email us. You can email me using garth@napkinnotesdad.com.
Or me at dara@crazyperfectlife.com.
Yeah, you know what? We have both picked out like really long email addresses. Oh. We'll make sure that they're in show notes and in the titles for the podcast so that you can easily click and email us. But both of our email addresses are fairly long.
That's okay. But Garth, it's time for our quote.
Yes. So, every year for the past couple of years, I've kind of, modeled or talked about the 21 days of thankfulness. And those are the 21 days leading up to Thanksgiving. And so what I had done way back when is I'd come up with 21 things that I wanted to say specifically leading up to Thanksgiving. And one of them is so simple. It's from our childhood. It's from the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. And it's a quote by Charlie Brown, which is, "What if today we were grateful for everything?" And if you think about this, it's a children's cartoon, but it's so simple, and it's such a teachable moment that, Charlie Brown, who, by the way, just had Halloween and got a sack full of rocks, right? I don't think he got a single piece of candy. And 3 weeks later, here he is at Thanksgiving saying, what if we were grateful for everything?
Remember that today as you travel through your day.
I am Garth Callaghan, the Napkin Notes Dad.
And I'm Dara Kurtz from Crazy Perfect Life.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Thrive.
Have a grateful day.
Thanks for listening. Thrive is created by Dara Kurtz of Crazy Perfect Life and Garth Callaghan, the Napkin Notes Dad, with the hope that we help you develop motivation and inspiration to make your life remarkable.
It would mean so much to us if you shared this with your friends and family and left us a review on iTunes. Remember, you deserve to thrive. Thrive